Well, this has been fun. Remember last week we did our watercolor greenery, and if you missed it, there we have the class is a lot. It's up on the website. It's actually if you don't know where the that is, it's actually on the Element 3 crafting. It's I can give you the link at the end of the class if you don't have it. But yes, last week we did really wonderful little watercolor leaf exercises. And I'm just going to, if everybody could mute yourself, just in case, because I think what happens is if you make, if the dog barks or something happens, then your picture comes up on the video. So I just want you to know that. So this is our beautiful exercises. So we did these, and this is in practice for what we're going to do today. Plus, I did mention we were going to do summer berries, and I don't know about you, but I love blueberries, and blueberries are fun to paint. So we'll start with a little blueberry, just doing some blueberries, very simple. I'll just kind of show you to get the colors very loose, and then we're going to do a wreath, and we're going to do a wreath out of just creating a circle, and then we'll be using some of the leaves that we had done last week, and just try to be loose and free, because I tended when I try to make something, especially in a circle, I can get kind of tight. But I'll show you a technique that will kind of free you up a little bit. So what you need to, like for your little blueberry study, just get a little scrap piece of watercolor paper, because you're just really going to practice these, and you may put them in your wreath afterwards, which I think will be fun. It's just adding some blueberries. These were more red berries, but I think it'd be fun to put some blue in that. So just get a little practice piece of paper right now for your watercolor berries. And then if you want to do a card or just a bigger piece of paper for your wreath, you'll need something a little bit bigger so you'll have room to make the circle. So just another piece of paper. I have one here. This is about a 6 by 8, I think. It's actually a block, but anything you've got, that's fine. So let's just do a little blueberry study real quick. And I have, you can do, really blueberries are really easy because they're blue, and a little bit of purple and a little bit of green to make the little twigs. They have delicate stems and delicate, kind of nice, soft leaves, very small. So let's go ahead and just have some fun mixing some colors. So I was playing a little bit before we started today, and practicing a little actually. And what you want to do is grab in your palette, if you have some ultramarine blue or some kind of blue that doesn't have green in it, because phthalo blue looks greenish even though it's not, it's like a cyan, but maybe ultramarine blue if you have it. But if you do have only a phthalo blue, I can show you how to play with that too. So I'll just show you, here's an ultramarine blue just by itself. It's almost a blueberry color, but I need to add, and that's ultramarine blue. So if you have, let's say, a cyan let's say a phthalo blue, which I'll grab a little, I can find one. I know it's here. This is phthalo blue. You can see phthalo blue is more of a has more of a turquoise look to it. I don't know if you see this on the palette, but it's a little more, it has a more greenish tone, even though it's not really green. But this is a beautiful mixing color, so you can actually add purple to it. You can add red or another, like a quinacridone color. Like this is a quinacridone red, and I'm going to add it to it. Oops, and that kind of made it muddy. Sorry about that. But that's not a bad color. I'll save that. It's sort of a shade. It's sort of a shadow color. I don't know what that red was. So I'm going to kind of clear out a spot here. And I'm just going to mix a little bit of this phthalo again, and then try to get something a little bit more, maybe a transparent color. Like if you have opera or quinacridone magenta, you can create that blue you're looking for. You see, this is more of a blueberry color now. So definitely mix transparent colors. So I've got this little, this is quinacridone magenta and opera, and that created that purple color mixed with the phthalo blue. But ultramarine blue is beautiful on its own with a little bit of a purple color if you have it. That kind of tones it to that blueberry color, which is, blueberries have a tone of kind of a blue, gray blue, and a little purple. So just get yourself, kind of mix up some blues, and And then what we're going to do is we're going to start making little blueberry shapes. And really, we could start with the blueberries and then follow with the stems, or we can do, why don't we just, I'm going to start with the blueberries this time. Sometimes you can start with the stems and then you have to kind of build the blueberries on top, but I think it's fun to just start with the shapes. So to make the blueberry shape, you're really going to just make a circle-ish shape. You're going to go around and you kind of leave an area of white, and you want that to be circular and sort of leave some white though. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. Have plenty of water in that. And then you can drop a little purple if you want, just a little bit of purple maybe on the side. And just kind of like this, just make a little circle shape. And same thing, doing to make another one. I'm just going to grab a little more blue. And you can vary your blues a little bit. Kind of mix maybe a little purple with it. Just kind of making it more interesting is to put, so here's a straight blue, and I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller. It's going to go around, and I've got a number 6 brush here. Any round brush will be fine, and I'm leaving just a tiny bit of white, not much, a little bit of white, and I've got my circle shape, and I'm just going to drop a little purple in it down here just to see what happens. And I don't have my drawing tool, so I should have plugged it in, but I didn't. So what you want to do is just create some just make some blueberry shapes and do them in different levels of concentration of color, like pale to light. And if you find that you have a color that's just too faded or too much water, I'm going to take this towel, I'm going to dab my brush, and then I'm just going to pull a little bit of that color out while it's still wet. And now I'm going to put a little purple in that just to give a little, see wherever that purple is, there it is. Just a touch of purple, just dropping it in while it's wet. And then I'm doing it, just maybe 5 blueberry shapes. Just kind of, you don't have to, I think the more, don't worry so much about the exact shape being perfect. There you go. Just like this. And then just maybe we can 5 to 7. Let's say 5 to 7. So we've got the circular shapes, and just vary your colors a little bit using just that blue, purple, and don't add any green at this point. No greens. We'll put the greens in the leaves and the stems. I'm gonna grab a little purple if I can find my purple again. Where did you go, purple? There you are. That purple is real. Oops, that's a gray. Where did my purple go? Somewhere. Where did it go? Oh, where did you go? Let's see if this is it. Yep, there's some purple there. I have all these palettes that are very transparent, so it's hard to see the color. Unless you have a little swatch of it, it's hard to see until when you dip it in and you're surprised, oh, that's not the color I was looking for. So just adding that little touch of purple, maybe one just kind of purple altogether. Just make like kind of a cluster. They can touch each other. Maybe while they're wet, I'll just I'll make this next one start touching. And it's okay if the colors blend together. It's okay. And then I'm going to do another one. So I've got 6 and I want to have a 7th one. I'm just going to do one right in the middle, kind of maybe making those touch each other, and just go around with your brush and leave that little area of white here and there. So now I've got 7 little different sized circles. And I'm going to just let those dry. And that's the hard part. It's hard to let dry without, well, maybe what we'll do is let's let those dry a little bit. And let's let's just set that aside because I want you to let those dry just enough so that you can start doing your, you'll be able to when those dry, we can do the leaves. But get your other piece of paper, and this is going to be for your wreath. Get this ready. I'm just going to scooch this out of the way so you can see. And find something to make a circle with. What I have here is I have a little protractor, but if you don't have a protractor, the base of a glass, or even this would be a perfect one. I could make a circle out of that, and you're just going to trace a circle, light circle around. And I'm going to decide mine's going to be about, it can be smack dab in the middle. And just depending on what size you want your wreath to be, you just create your circle. Mine's going to be pretty big here, it looks like. And that's okay. And just create a circle with a pencil. You can see that one. But like I said, even if you have just a shape, like if you find something that's the right size, like here I've got this little guy, I can just trace around it and create that circle. So create your circle and just kind of put it somewhere in the middle of your paper. And it doesn't have to be perfectly in the middle. If it's not smack dab in the middle, that's okay. So we're gonna, now that we've got our wreath, we're getting ready to do. And I'm gonna put this aside, and I'm hoping that my little blueberries have dried just a little bit. If they haven't, that's okay. There's some that are dry, some that are still wet. But the next thing is we're gonna make little twigs. Now we need some greens. So we're not using any blues at all. We're gonna use some greens, and I mix up a color called Cascade Green because it's one of my favorites. And it's right in here. It's kind of a mixture of a blue-green combination. It's really interesting. And when it dries kind of like that. It's very, very interesting. So I'm going to mix a little bit of that and also a little bit of brown, which is something I normally don't have in my palette. But if you don't have brown, you could make your own brown. But let's just, if you have a little bit of a brown color, mix some of that. Here's a little bit right here. Oops, you can't see it, Daniel. Let's see. Let's see, I've got a little bit of brown, some of the Cascade Green, and now I'm going to make little twigs. You can also take some gray or purple color, like just a shadow color of some sort if you have, which, let's see, what's this one? It's a mystery color. Oh, that's a nice brown too. Okay. This set right here I haven't used in a long time. It's the Ultimate Mixing Set by Daniel Smith, and it has some really interesting colors, which I haven't used in a long time, but there's some beautiful grays and really pretty colors. So I'm going to take a little bit of the brown, and I'm just going to start, and really I'm not going to think too much, but I'm going to mix a little bit of brown with a little bit of green, just a touch, and I'm just going to start connecting my little berries. And I'm going to start by just making little lines that kind of make like little twig shapes. And all the berries are connected with, they each have their own little stem. And they're really small and delicate. And I'm just gonna kind of bring that out like that. So you see how small or thin these are. I'm just gonna make it a little thicker down at the bottom. And now I'm gonna make leaves. And I'm just gonna make leaves kind of coming out, and the leaves are slightly rounded instead of, there we go, like that. They're more like that shape. Their leaves they don't have a pointy end. They have a little slightly rounded end. So I'm just going to do some leaves kind of off the berries. There we go, like that. Just kind of little rounded ones, and then different sizes. So these shapes are kind of like little footballs. And I'm just going to kind of go up here, slightly football shaped, not too rounded. And then I'm just going to connect those leaves, like giving the little, there we are, like that. So I'm connecting them so that they have a connection there. And I'm going to do another one maybe here. Let's see, maybe right, who knows where. Let's see, I'll do another one over there like this, just right here. And really it's just kind of not too many, and this is not supposed to be realistic. It just gives you the impression of the berries and the leaves. So I'm just going to put another little place here. And then maybe in here, I'll just put some more leaves. And I tend to want, this brush is making them round, but I'm going to just force that or make them pointed. I'm just going to force them to be kind of round. So this is how we'll just kind of make that. Now, the next step, now that we've got our leaves in there, I'll just throw another one over here. And just kind of add leaves as you want. you can have more leaves than blueberries. You don't have to have, um, you can see the variation in sizes too make a difference too. So now I'm going to take, now that my berries are dry enough, now I can do the second step of the berries. Well, if you notice, blueberries have this little cute little, I wish I had picked a reference photo, but I'm going to take the same blue, except a little darker. Here, I'll even use this as a reference because I thought these came out pretty cool. Very loose, wasn't trying really hard. Sometimes this is the best. You're not trying too hard. And you just want to let's see if this is a good one. Yeah. And you just want to just make the impression of it. Because, a photo is what you would have if you wanted to have the real thing. But when you're painting, it's the impression of one. It's not really the real thing. So what we have is on the top here, I'm just going to create a little place, that little place where blueberries kind of have like a little crown. And I'm just using a darker blue with a little slight purple in it. And I'm just creating that little place, that little crown. And I'm going to do this on all of them. And I'm going to place that crown in different areas. Like here, this crown's going to be more on this spot. And I'll just kind of I'll make the little spots come up. And I'm going to just do that all around. Give your berries their little crowns. Maybe add a little purple too, if you find your purple. There it is, mysterious purple. Wants to just, there we are. So I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a little, this one already had a blotch on it, but it really probably wasn't a natural place where it would be. So I'm just going to do it maybe right here, where it would be there. Just making the little points, kind of like the little crown on the blueberry. And the same here, I'll do the same here. Maybe on this one, I'll bring it just kind of a circle, semicircle with little points that come up. And same thing here. And then this one, I would probably want it right here. Just kind of eyeball it. And then those little points, just take your brush and just flick it up a little bit. And to make your blueberry more dimensional, you can take the same color and just create a shadow. And I'm just going to do it right at the bottom. I'm going to just take a little, just glazing. Basically, it's another layer of color. It's not really dark, but because it's layering over the other color, it will darken. So I'm just making little shadows kind of at the base of the blueberry. If my light is up from here, just trying to give a little dimension, more than what I had. You always imagine your light, and if you have one that's overlapping the other, this is an opportunity to bring that out, that shape out. Here I was able to bring that one up, and this one is going to be behind, so it's going to be darker. There you go. So now I've got the dimensions there. Now that those are kind of done, we can go back to that in a minute, but we want to let that dry. So while that's drying, we can go back to our leaves and do some detail. So we take our brush, make very fine lines, maybe just down the center to create the little vein of the leaf, or that just to kind of give it some more dimension, just a little bit like that. So if you can see, this one is, I didn't even finish this one. This one is, I'm going to just add this little lines, which really helps to kind of define the leaves a little bit without overdoing it. And this one I hadn't shaded yet, but so you can see the difference but they're both very effective as far as a little sprig of blueberry. And so I'm going to let that dry, set that aside, and now we can start our wreath. And now that we've had the practice for the blueberries, and remember the practice for the leaves. Now, those of you who weren't in the class, it's okay. Last time we're going to just do it. So you've got your circle. So this is the thing. A circle will tend to tighten you up, for some reason. It just tightens us up. So what we're going to do, I'm going to use my same brush this time. I'm going to just see what happens when I just use the same brush. And it's a fairly small brush, a number 6. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create, using my greens, I'm going to do some greenery. I'm going to put away the blue for a bit. Let's just make some greens. Mix up a combination of greens. Start like maybe one that's more blue-green, and then have another dish or a little section that's maybe a kind of a yellowish green. Add some yellow to it. So I've got some Cascade green, which is the blue-green, green apatite, which is a yellow-green, and I'm even going to add some more yellow to it just to give it a little more yellow. You can make one that's even a more blue, which is like a blue. You could do a blue-green. This is some indigo I mixed. I can just add a little yellow and see if it can make a nice green. Yep, it makes a beautiful deep green. Indigo and this is nickel azo, just so you know. The colors don't matter if you're, unless you if you want to make notes of the colors I'm using. But really, just whatever you have. Don't worry about having every color in the book. It's just, I just tend to have a lot of colors. So just a variety of greens with kind of a combination of blues, but always tending towards the green. And then a little bit of brown is good because you'll need that just for twigs and things, just for variation. So you can see I've got like a mixture of different blues and greens. Okay, so now let's start our wreath. So the thing with a wreath, let's just go loose and bold. The first thing we want to do is let's take a lighter color, not get too dark, keep it on the light side, and just from using your circle as your pivot point. So I'm going to take my first leaf, and I'm just going to start at the circle. I'm going to start the stem at the circle, and then I'm going to press it out. I'm going to go kind of big, because I don't want to, just making one of those leaves that we made last week where we just pushed down the belly of the brush and we push it down and then we lift it and it gets this nice little point. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, just kind of finish that off. So I've got my first leaf, and I can drop in a color at the base of it while it's wet, of course, and just make that shape of the leaf the way you want it to be. And that's my first one. So now I'm going to take a second one, and I'm going to go around. We're going to rotate our paper in a counterclockwise direction. And I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to kind of take this next leaf, maybe not too, let's just do the second one to come right off of this first one. So the second one, we're going to take it and start it at the base of the circle, or just right at the circle, and I'm going to bring it up and push down my belly of my brush, lift it up, and I'm going to make a nice big juicy leaf here. You can do, and this is a little bit bigger than the other one, and you can make yours bigger or smaller, it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to do this time I want to be loose, a little bit looser with my wreath than I was before. So now I've got this leaf here, and I'm just going to shape it the way I want. You can always change the shape of it. You can drop in a color, and a little more color at the base just to give it some dimension while it's wet. So I've got those two leaves started. I'm going to just rotate it I have a clock, right? So I just did, so let's say this is 10 o'clock. No, that would be 11 o'clock. So I'm going to bring it around. Basically, I want to space it out kind of evenly in 4 areas. So my next leaf, I'm going to start farther up around that circle, and I'm going to just load the brush. Plenty of color, green, kind of a lightish, not too dark, and just start your leaf the same way. Kind of repeat the same leaf, which is starting. I'm going to go very light, and then I'm going to press the belly of the brush and lift it up, and do the same on the other side. So, and the faster you go, probably the looser and better these are. So I'm just going to drop a little color in the base of that. There we go. A little purple maybe, just for fun. And that's always a fun way to just darken it and change it a little bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my second leaf, medium amount of color, and I'm going to just start it right at this where I had the beginning of this one. I'm going to do the same thing. Press, make a second one. And this one is a lot lighter, but that's good because I tend to go a little too dark. Let that that dry. Actually, the colors always dry lighter, of course, a good deal lighter actually than when you put them down. I think watercolor tends to dry about 20% up. It lightens quite a bit. So, but you always want to go a little lighter, err on the side of lighter, and then you can always drop in color while it's still wet. So that's just as a kind of a general rule. I'm just dropping that color. So now I've got my second little cluster here. Now I'm going to just do it in threes this time rather than, so I'm going to do a third right at this area to kind of make it symmetrical, sort of. So I'm going to just do the same thing. I'm going to take my leaf and I'm just going to start it and do another one. This one's a lot bigger. Kind of wanted it the same, similar in size, but that's okay. I will just work it out. Not a problem. In fact, I'm just going to be a little bit looser and not try to. There we are. So I've got the three, kind of the base now. Now all this is going to get covered, of course, but this is just the beginning. So we've got a set of three going now. Now let's say take a different color, like more one with the yellows, little yellow-green color maybe. We've got this yellow-green going. And try a different shape of leaf, like we've got this one here, or just try something different. And if you want to go, it's probably better to go in the same direction. Have your plants going in the same direction rather than going the opposite. So similar direction anyway. So I'm going to make another, I think maybe kind of a fern kind of thing going here. So if you remember when we did our ferns last time, we made a little strip. Let's see, I'll start it right here. I'm just going to start at this right in between these two. So I've got right here, we've got three places to do this. I'm just going to take start it out and maybe curve on all, do the same thing. Kind of a slight curve to it, making a line, kind of a line. This is going to be the part of my fern. Okay, so we've got these three little, this is the base of the fern. And one is much longer, so that's okay. I'm just going to make these a little bit longer. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this one is a little bit shorter too, so I'm just going to make it longer. There we are. A little bit better as far as, the symmetry of it. Now I'm going to make my leaves. So with the fern, if you remember, we did very long strokes. What you do is you barely push the belly down. You just kind of make long, starting very, very thin and very long, and have them very close to each other. And you can just see it's kind of a nice, very close, and very, very, you press down, but it's not too much because you want that elongated leaf. It's just like a fern. And each of these is going to be way different than the ones I've done before. That's just you never can make, it seems like watercolor, you can't really get the same thing twice. So I've got that fern started, and I'm going to do the same on this side. Just creating these little long, kind of long fern-like leaves. Loading my brush and just creating those long, and let them go inside the circle. You're just creating that fern. So I'm going to do that on these other ones, and you can see one is much darker. So I'm going to just kind of bring these if they're not wet. Oh well, I'm going to go ahead back and get that a little darker, because that one just came out nice and dark and the other ones didn't. So you can always go back and get that so that they look a little more the same. I'm just not going to worry about it. Okay, it's going to get covered anyway. So take that green apatite color again. It's a little bit of the yellow. Got my fern color. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one here. So I'm just going to make those long leaves, starting at somewhere a little bit below that last. I'm starting here, and I'm just going to bring it out and create those, and just kind of go. You'll get that feel for the brush, And make sure you have plenty of water and color. On your brush when you're doing it. Same thing, let's just go, and I'm just going to go a little looser and quicker. I think I'm just going too slow. And sometimes going too slow is not the best there. So that looks a little more natural because I'm speeding it up a little bit. I'm doing the same thing on this one. I'm going to repeat exactly what I did on this next one. Just going to bring it here, and I went too far up to the side, but there we go. And just create your leaves, long, elongated, finger-like, with the point at the end. So we've got we'll have a variation, a variety of leaves and shapes and colors, even though they're mostly green. Oops, these are getting, oops, I got to make those longer. Making them too short. There we go, like that. So we've got 3 sprigs or things of fern. So now we can do some more leaves and different kinds. So let's try a different brush. Maybe if I thought I would be able to do it with one, but I think I'm going to use a brush with a little more juice. It gives a little more juice to it. And this is a little squirrel hair brush. And I'm just going to mix up some green that I already have. Slightly different tones, maybe lighter this time. There we go. Just mix up a different green. And using that circle that you drew, just start your leaves from there. And you can make them curved, you can make them go wherever way you want. So I'm going to just do a little loose kind of thing here, and I'm going to make it go like this, and maybe sort of curved it this time. And this time I'm going to take, this is probably too dark, not dark enough. And then I'm going to just bring this other one, and I'm going to cover some of my fern because, when you're doing a wreath, it's going to be layered. So I've got a layered look here. Just going to try a different green. Oh, this is a very strong green. It's like a phthalo green. Now, if you get a phthalo green that's very strong, you can take a little purple to tone it down, and it really does it tones it down nicely. So I'm just going to do a little here, and then maybe the same thing. I'm going to just take some more leaf shapes and just kind of be loose and bring them from that, using the pencil line that you have, using that as your guide of where you want to start. Same thing I'm just going to bring them around. I need to fill this up really quickly with big bold leaves. And covering the fern is fine. There. And maybe just rotate your paper. Rotating is, and just keep going in that direction and be loose. And you can just kind of look at it and go, okay, well, I need to do vary the size maybe in leaves, because I'm noticing mine are about the same size. So I need to make them a little smaller. Just vary the size and vary the greens. There's a little bigger one, and I'm going to go a little smaller here. So now I've got a base of large leaves. And now we can do change up the leaves maybe. We'll do some more sprigs. We'll do little sprigs now. So if you remember last week, we did little sprigs of small, like we did eucalyptus kind of leaves, but we also did just kind of little sprigs. So I'm going to take, using my circle, my pencil, which is almost disappearing, but I'm just going to take, I'm just going to bring a little sprig out, and I'm going to make little sprigs, like little tiny. And this brush is not helping me. So I'm going to take that brush, retire it, because it does make nice big. Are you okay? Somebody's coughing. So with the little sprigs, just make little small leaves that kind of join close together. So that you've got little just little sprigs, and start, like I said, start them from, have them go using that center where you're using, oops, I'm going to rotate it counterclockwise. I keep going the other direction. And just kind of pull them out wherever you want, that just kind of make it, give it some little small pieces like that. Maybe another one kind of here would be good, just kind of random. That circle is your base. So maybe this is a good time to start adding our berries. So with your blue color, let's do blueberries, a blueberry wreath. Got a little indigo. Oh, that's pretty strong. I'm gonna have to add maybe some phthalo and some purple to give that softer color. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Now just do some, add some blueberries and just randomly, kind of like, don't worry about it. Just go make your circles, maybe in little clusters of 3 to 5. Just going around, and I'm going to make a little clusters of these blueberries. I'm going to go, so I've got my first cluster here, and I'm going to make my second one right here, a little bit farther out, not touching anything at this point, because we'll connect them with stems. Another, I'll just do clusters of 3. And they can touch each other, or they don't have to, or you can have them touching. So I've got that next group. This didn't turn out to be a circle, so I'm just going to round it out a little bit. Kind of do the same thing that you did with the others. Leave some light, little spots of light. I'm going to do the same, maybe another cluster right here. And add some purple if you want. Just drop in a little purple inside the berry. Maybe I'll do a 4th one on that one. I don't want to be too consistent. I'll put a 4th one on this side. Maybe, well, I'm going to be too consistent. I'm going to stop that. I'll put, there, 5 on that one. This has 5. So now I've got my clusters here. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do another cluster probably right here. And you can just, as you're looking at your circle, you can just make it, really, this is your wreath, you're designing it. You're putting whatever you want on it and how you want it. But we're going to just layer. It goes in layers. So the lighter colors are going to work. Now I see that I need to probably add some more berries, maybe in these sections here. So I'll just go ahead. As you look at it, you'll see where you need to add. Add a little purple to that. Maybe here and here. So I've got some kind of symmetry. Just put it, you can put it over whatever, something you've already drawn. It's okay, because we are layering. So this will be our summer wreath. That's plenty of berries, I think, and I might enlarge these. Just looking at, you'll see when you're looking at them, what would work, what's working, and you'll just kind of adjust as you go. Now these are just as our first layer, so let me make sure we have plenty of time. We do, okay. So I've got that. Now, next thing is we're going to do another layer of leaves. While those berries dry, because those berries are, they need to dry before we do the little stems and the leaves on them. So in here, we can do another small, like with the leaves that we already had. We have large leaves. Let's do some small ones. And we're going to layer with a little slightly darker color. So we've got our greens. I'm going to take the blue out of the way. Got our greens. Mix up, just a variety of greens, like I said before, and maybe add more blue to it, because it might really be nice to have a little blue tones just to kind of work with your berries. Bluish green. I've got this nice blue green. I'm just going to do some small leaves and maybe kind of blueberry leaves, whatever these are. They're like, I'm just going to make a little, just small, kind of rounded leaves. And I'm kind of layering, as you can see, I'm layering over the other leaves, and then I'm going to just connect them with the little stems. And then maybe I'll just connect these. These will be my blueberry stems. So I just connected them like this. And really I'm using this as the circle, my pencil line, I still see it. And hopefully at some point we'll cover up our pencil line. But this is our anchor. And so just do that all around where, add some greenery and maybe make it curved, slightly curved. And let's see, I'm going to make some more greenery here. And now I'm going to just kind of loosen it up because I don't want to worry about the design too much. It all comes together because you're on a circle. And your leaves don't have to be precise. It all kind of works together anyway. And just be loose like that. And you can even have your leaves kind of, your branches can just wrap around the wire. So imagine you're making a wreath with wire. You've got your floral arrangement around this wire, and that's kind of what that pencil line is. But eventually that wire disappears. And if you take some darker color just to kind of layer, to create depth, and the layers it'll be more interesting with your different colors of depth of colors. I'm just going to add a little bit dark leaves here, and I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to make my little sprig of small leaves here. And just connect those little berries. Then we can make those crowns later on those. Just little twigs. And really kind of, if you find that you have more greenery on one side than the other, just kind of rotate it around. Don't think of any position, or place that this is, we don't know yet which is top or bottom. It doesn't matter. But just start to bring out dimension and make contrast, like I'm making some little lines here just to kind of define these leaves a little bit. And also I'm creating marks without, it all gives the impression of the leaf. If you want to add a little brown just to kind of create some twigginess, you can add that, and that will also give some dimension too. So just keep rotating and darkening the areas that need to be darkened, and add more leaves as you go. And vary the sizes of the leaves and the shapes a little bit. And then it just will come together. Change the colors as well. Add a little purplish color here. So here we've got, and when you do, if you do one way on one, if you start, I can't say anything right today. If you try to be consistent, at least as you go around, as far as like, I've got this little sprig going towards the blueberries, and if you do that on all of them, you'll get consistency in your wreath, even no matter what they are. It doesn't matter. Just having that consistency will make this all tie together. I see I have to do the same thing here. I got to make a little sprig of small leaves, just a cluster going towards the berries, and then I'm just going to connect the berries with little lines. Same thing, I need to do that there. I didn't do it, so there it is. I'm just going to rotate my paper, and I'm going to do the same on this one. Just little clusters, little layers and layers. And then it all comes together. Let's see, get a little bit more here. So I see there's this list needs something. I see it needs a leaf. Oh, because I didn't go all the way around. So you can see when I'm looking at it as I rotate, I go, what's happening? Well, I didn't complete. I see that I need to put a green leaf like I did everything else over this fern. It's bare. So I need to add something to that. I'm going to just add using my big brush because that's what I used. And you'll see it as you rotate it. You'll see what you need to do. So this looks like I just need a big leaf right over it. I can do another one right, kind of like here. Yeah, like that. Now it kind of works a little bit better. And just keep kind of moving around and make small like adjustments, rotating your paper, making just lines. And what you could do if you find that everything's just a little too tight, you can splatter, but let's do that in a minute. So what I'm going to do too now is now that things are kind of coming together, what needs to happen is it needs to be more thick around the center. So what I do is I'm going to take where my pencil, if you see any pencil mark, just take your pencil mark and just kind of make little, I don't even know what to call these. These are just little marks. They're kind of just little marks that I'm covering that pencil, but I'm also thickening the base of the wreath, which makes it more interesting. And I could use a little of that brown. And I'm just kind of cross-hatching a little bit. If you can see, I'm just taking that pencil line and creating weight and in texture with my brush, just by moving it around. Kind of like making little stems is what I'm doing. I'm just going to go inside the wreath just a little bit and a little bit outside, and that will actually give it some weight. Okay, there it is, I think. And so just keep layering them, and this is something that you can keep working with different brushes. You can try, let's see, maybe do something really outside bring in some of that blue that you had with your berries, and maybe do some more just make some little dots that kind of join it all together. Let's do that. It's kind of just splotches. And actually, while it's still wet, the areas that I went in earlier, this will actually just make it a little looser because I find that I kind of tighten up too much. So little blotches of blue kind of helps to tie that together as well. So it's a summer blueberry wreath. You can even go a little bit on the inside of it just to give it some. This time I'm really just trying to keep it loose. You can also spatter. If you find that you're too tight, you can take, I'm going to make these little blueberry crowns now. You can splatter a little bit if you find that your work is just too tight, which, it happens. Just take your brush and just spatter some color around, which is what I did with this one. I just splattered on the outside of the wreath. And this one I can still work on, but I really wanted to show you, I wanted you to be able to feel like you could get one done, hoping that we are able to do that. So these are the little crowns, making those little spikes on the end of the blueberry just to kind of give it some interest. Not trying to be realistic, but it is kind of coming together now. Really, with watercolor, we don't want to spend too much. We just want to give it that fresh feel. So that is the wreath at this point. I could go take some of that blue and tie it in a little bit if I wanted to maybe in these just to give it some more detail, maybe a little bit. Maybe some of that fern needs a little bit more. Go this way. So you can see there it is. That's it for now, that one. I don't know. I'd love to see what everybody else has done. I feel like I kind of went all over the place, but I'm hoping that you were able to get something fun out of it. Now, one thing I'll do real quick, I'll show you how I splatter. So with splattering, you can just use any brush. This one I want to splatter some blue because I have some blue. And I really don't want to get it in the center if I can avoid. I'll try to avoid it, but if I don't, if it, it happens, it happens. So with splattering, you load your brush up with a little bit of paint, but don't go too thick. Not too heavy, but lots of water. And what you do is when you splatter, you just tap it. I've got it in the middle. There we go. Oh, well, that's not what I wanted. I'm just tapping my brush with a little bit of color on it, and I'm just going to go tap, kind of a tap around, just spattering kind of around like a spray around the whole thing. So that also makes it a lot looser, and you can then go a little, wetter, but light colors when you're spattering, not too dark, because then it just doesn't look right. Light. And then I'll let that dry. And you can vary the colors when you're spattering too. If you want to get thicker, these are very small spatters because I have a small brush. But if you want a bigger splatter, you would use a bigger brush. I'll show you this mop. Let's see what happens. No harm done. If I make a mess of it, I make a mess. It's just an exercise today. So just to show you, if you use a bigger brush, hopefully I'll get a bigger spatter. Come on, this one isn't spattering at all. Each one is different, so nope, that's not spattering any different. So it just depends. You got to try different ones. These mop brushes may work better. And this time I'll use a little green. I'll spatter a little green. Yep, much better. So you just have to try. And there are other ways to splatter. There's even little toothbrushes, but they can be messy, really messy. Now, after your wreath is done, you can do some lettering inside, a little poem or something. These are really nice to do, like some calligraphy, or if you have a rubber stamp, you could make some. So it's a nice little focal place for a thought or anything like that. I think it'd be fun to put a nice word in here. And this is going to be a card. It's great to do these on cards. And if you want to do something, like you could even put a photograph inside these, but I think it's fun to put quotes and things like that. And if you find that things are too loose, you can always take your brush and just kind of scooch things around. Just if you find it's too tight, just go in there and play with it until you get this beautiful kind of loose watercolor leaf wreath. So I'd love to see what everybody's done.